Hi, I'm Lippy. I'm a shamanic healer. I'm also completing my master's degree in clinical psychology and I'm certified in trauma care. And this is part of a series of my videos in which we talk about my healing journeys with my shamanic work. And the term journey is actually a very specific term in the field of shamanism, which refers to a shaman or a shamanic practitioner journeying into non ordinary reality to bring back information or healing advice that would help us in this reality. But in my understanding, I have expanded the word journeying to include all kinds of healing journeys, including healing journeys that have taken place even in this reality. And in today's video, I would like to share with you my healing journey with the ancient art of omenology. Omenology is basically the art of divining or gaining a message or messages or information from particular omens. The omens could be plants, they could be animals, they could even be people or a particular weather or a particular event that could be understood to be an omen. Now, I'm going to share with you my own journey with omenology and what it has come to mean to me today. But later on, we're also going to talk a little bit about how omenology does interact with your own personal belief system and how the same omens may not mean the same thing for everyone. So, to begin, I had a very, very significant turning point in my journey with omens because I've actually been seeing omens all my life. There've been many times when something has happened or I've seen a particular animal or experienced something, and deep in my gut, deep in my heart, it has signaled something to me. But there was a couple of years ago when I went to this seminar by a very popular life coach, a very popular thought leader, and something that he said in his seminar really stood out to me, and that was nothing has any meaning other than the meaning we give it. And when I came back from his seminar, this sort of stayed with me and I mulled over it, and I was trying to apply it to my life and understand this saying a little bit more deeply. So a couple of months down the line, I remember I was walking down the street, and where I stay, we have a lot of fruit bats, and they're usually not aggressive. They're very adorable animals, actually. But I remember I was walking down the street, and I had this fruit bat fly right at me, which is very unusual, and it literally looked like it was going to attack me, and it barely missed my hair. It sort of whizzed past my shoulder, and I immediately felt very uncomfortable, not because I'm scared of bats. I actually adore bats, I love them, but because I felt that maybe this was some kind of a sign or some kind of an omen about something negative that was going to happen. And then I thought about this saying that I'd heard in the seminar about nothing has any meaning other than the meaning you give it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to give a meaning to this. I'm not going to give a meaning that this means something bad is going to happen. And the next day, my best friend passed away. He was found dead in his apartment under mysterious circumstances, and of course that was very, very hard on me. And something in me said that I should have not ignored or dismissed the message that was coming to me from the bat. And this is before I started practicing shamanism officially. So I had been unofficially, unknowingly practicing aspects of it all my life, but this is much before when I wasn't even a healer. I was doing something totally different, actually. And somewhere I realized down the line that when the universe wanted to get certain messages to me, they would come to me via animals, and they would come to me via nature, and which I later realized down the line was because I am like a forest shaman. I am very connected to nature. I feel a very strong affinity to trees, to plants, to animals. In fact, I have to say I can't imagine my life without them. And that while everything may have the meaning, only the meaning that we give it, in my case, when it came to plant, animals, and nature, they were definitely communicating something to me that I shouldn't or wouldn't ignore. And this is not the first time. I had many other incidents. So there was this one time, and that was really spooky, where I was in Goa and I met this guy on the beach, and we were just chatting. And Goa still has that old world hippie culture where you meet someone and the next thing you're sitting with them in a bar and having a drink, or you're inviting them over to your room and you're just hanging out and then going down to the beach, and it's really easy going out there. And I guess I sort of got carried away with the whole Goa vibe, and I was going back to my room, so I invited this guy to come back to my room, and nothing happened. We were just sitting in the balcony overlooking the sea and just chatting and having a drink and just getting to know each other. And this is really crazy what happened, because slowly I started to realize that this guy I was sitting with probably was a psychopath, most likely was a sort of a sociopath, psychopath. And there are many reasons why that happened, and I don't want to get into too many details about why I felt that way around him, but I started to get uncomfortable because he was saying certain things that were a little bit unsettling. And while we were having this conversation, and I was starting to feel like, oh no, why did I invite this guy up to my room? I should have been more careful. I look up at the sky, and this is the dark night sky. I'm talking about, this was like past midnight, and the clouds in the sky suddenly morphed into a frightening face. I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. I swear to God, this is true. And I now realize that was a kind of a warning about this man. And of course, I heeded the warning this time. I was like, well, nothing has any meaning other than the meaning we give it, but that didn't work too well in my case the last time. So I made an excuse and I got him out of my room. And I don't know, he didn't do anything to me afterwards. He followed me around a couple of times, but he didn't do anything more. But I do believe that I made the right decision in terms of staying safe. I had another very interesting incident happen to me that was also really funny, and this was a couple of years ago, where I was gonna travel abroad. I had my flight all booked and I was leaving the next day, and I went the day before to the bank in the morning to get my international debit cards and my currency and everything sorted out for the trip. And when I was on my way back from the bank, I had to cross this really wide crossing, and I had to stand there and wait for a long time because there was tons of traffic, and the signal was taking ages to change into, for me to be safe enough to cross. And while I was waiting there, I suddenly felt something on my head, and it was a very strange feeling. It felt like claws, and it felt like some kind of a funny weight. And suddenly I realized it was a crow sitting on my head. This crow actually sat on my head, and I was pretty stunned because the way it sat on my head, initially I thought, like, is this crow trying to attack me? But it wasn't, because it wasn't pulling at my hair. It wasn't. In fact, I have to say that it actually sat on my head in the most gentle way possible. And then it flew off and sat on the ground and stared at me, and I stared back at the crow. And by now it was really getting funny and embarrassing as well, because onlookers from the oncoming traffic were staring at me with this woman standing there with this crow on her head. And in India we have this very funny association with crows. So we say that crows call out liars. So I remember with this crow sitting on my head, and there was this guy that whizzed past in his vehicle and looked at me and said, "What did you do?" Because he was like, no wonder this crow is sitting on this woman. She must be lying about something, or she must have done something bad. And I was like, I didn't do nothing. I was trying to go home. I was trying to pack and leaving the next day. And then The second time, when I was just ready to cross the road, this crow came back and sat on my head again the second time, and I was just like, okay, this is not a coincidence, and I really felt strongly that there was some meaning there for me. And sure enough, I came home and I did a shamanic journey on this, and it turned out to be something significant for me in a very positive way, because the journey I was about to take, the trip I was about to take, was going to open new doors for me. And crows are supposed to be the messengers of the underworld, according to a lot of shamanic and mythical lore. And they are messengers of death, but not always in the literal sense. So death can also mean transformation and change. And this journey was about to bring a lot of transformation into my life, which is what the crow was trying to communicate with me. Now, interestingly enough, I told my parents about what had happened, and my mother was not pleased, because in so I'm born into a Hindu family, and in Hinduism, a crow sitting on your head is a very bad sign. It just probably means you're going to die. And my mother was hysterical when she heard this, and she wasn't laughing about it at all. And she kind of got me scared as well, because I was going to fly the next day, and I was just like, does this mean the plane is going to crash and I'm going to die? For me, it felt positive, so my intuition said it was something positive, but for my mother, it felt negative and scary, and she was crying, and she actually went out to look for a priest to do special prayers to save me and to save my life and things like that. I've also had a whole bunch of omens come to me in the form of butterflies. I get butterflies a lot coming to me, especially when I need to free myself from something, and the time is ripe for me to free myself from a particular person or a situation. I always see butterflies coming up, and I'm like, okay, it's time to go. And I've had snakes coming to me a lot, either in my dreams, or I've had them show up in my surroundings, usually when there is something where I need to make a certain effort to remove certain energies from my life so that I can transform my life. And that's the meaning it has for me. So in shamanism, in Native American shamanism, snakes refer to gentle healing. But regardless of what these omens mean to me, I've had a lot of people ask me that they saw a particular animal, or they had an encounter with something in nature, or maybe they even met a person, or there was an event that happened that signaled to them that it had a particular meaning for them, and they will ask me, like, what does this mean? And I always say that, well, there is some truth to the saying that nothing has any meaning other than what we give it, because this is where the omenology interacts with you individually, because the same omen may not mean to you what it means to me. And I find a good indicator of this is your inner voice, your inner feelings, your inner intuition, because if you generally feel positive around that omen, it may have something of a positive message for you. If you generally feel uneasy or negative around that omen, it may have a negative association for you. It's not necessarily a negative message, but it may be that you have a negative association with that particular plant or animal. So this is how the universe communicates to you when it wants to communicate something more serious. And because at the end of the day, the universe speaks to us in a language that we understand. So this was a short video just to share with you my journey with omenology. And I would like to share with you also that if you see certain things in your life that are significant, or feel like they're significant to you, take some time to individualize what that means to you. This may mean meditating on it, or it may mean introspecting and connecting with that energy, connecting with that omen. Give it a voice, or pretend that it has a voice, and say, what message do you bring to me? Because it may be very unique and individual to you. So if you see a particular omen and it doesn't sort of resonate with you, then maybe there is no meaning for you there. For example, some people would see snakes and freak out. Some people would just look at snakes and say, oh, wonderful, I saw a snake today, no big deal. Some people may just look at snakes and feel very positive about it because that's what it means to them. So don't take yourself out of the equation. Give your omen a voice. Give it a chance to interact with you and speak to you in a language that you understand. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and I hope to see you soon in my next video. Bye bye.